Is there a supplementary agenda?
We do have a supplementary agenda this evening, Your Worship. We will be adding item 18B, which is the motion by Councillor Oche regarding Merlin Legion funding. I did also want to note that we will be postponing item 14A2, which is the report in the consent agenda regarding the United Way. Councillor Carmen McGregor is not in attendance tonight, and as this report originated from her motion, we will be postponing it till the July meeting.
Can I get a motion for approval of the agenda? Councillor Finn, seconded by Councillor Latimer. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Disclosures of pecuniary interest, direct or indirect, for open session agenda items and the general nature thereof. Seeing none. Item 9, recognition. Announcement of the Agricultural Hall of Fame 2019 inductees for Peter Hensel, Chair.
The Kent County Hall of Fame receives application forms from individuals or organizations suggesting candidates for inclusion in the Kent County Hall of Fame, Agricultural Hall of Fame. Induction forms can be found on the Chatham-Kent Agricultural Fame website and sent in at any time of the year prior to the committee's March meeting for consideration. This year, the committee has selected 2 men and 1 woman who have provided a positive influence on agriculture in Chatham-Kent community and beyond. And that will be inducted into the Kent Agricultural Hall of Fame on Tuesday, November the 19th, 2019 at the Country View Golf Course. The day will begin with a meet and greet at 11:30 and with lunch and induction to follow. Tickets can be obtained by calling Kathy Van Eck at 519-683-2929. Those selected this year are Dr. Norman Bradner, who will always be recognized within the Canadian seed industry by his peers and locally by Chatham-Kent seed soybean growers and commercial producers as the father of private soybean breeding in Canada. Also is Diane Fluke, a resident of Raleigh Township, is well known for advocating sustainable farming practices and creating better understanding and appreciation of agriculture and farming practices. And the third is Dr. Peter Sikkema, a resident of Ridgetown who is recognized as a world leader in the field of weed science and is an expert researcher in weed management to control resistant weeds to maximum crop yield. These are the people who will be inducted this fall. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Item 10, planning.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. I thought there would be handshakes up here in front or something. Planning meeting process. The process to be followed for each application will be as follows. The clerk will announce the item. The mayor will ask if there is anyone present other than the applicant or his or her agent with an interest in the item and to indicate so by raising their hand. Individuals or their agent present with an interest in the item other than the applicant will be asked to proceed to the podium, provide their name and address, and address council. Council will be asked if it has any questions of each presenter and then the applicant. Administration will be asked if they have any comments based on any discussion that may have occurred. Council will be asked what action it wishes to take with regard to the item. If there is no one present indicating an interest in the item, there will be no presentation by administration, and council will be asked what action it wishes to take with regard to the item. Notice. If any person or public body that files an appeal of a decision of council in respect of the proposed applications does not make oral or written submissions to the municipal clerk of the Corporation of the Municipality of Chatham-Kent before the proposal is approved, they are not entitled to appeal a decision to the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to add the person or public body as party to the appeal. Notice of passing. Information on council's actions tonight will be posted on the municipal website. All persons receiving notice of this meeting will receive a notice of passing of a bylaw relating to any of the planning items presented here tonight if approved, including appeal procedures. Any other person who wishes to receive a notice of passing or a notice of council's decision must submit a written request to the municipal clerk.
Item 10A, application for consent and zoning bylaw amendment, Justin Bell, 6135 Talbot Trail, Community of Raleigh, South Kent.
Is the applicant, his or her agent, present? If so, please raise your hand. Seeing none, is there anyone present other than the applicant who wishes to speak to this application? If so, please raise your hand. Seeing none, what action would council like to take with regard to this application? Councillor Thompson?
Happy to move the recommendations.
Councillor Latimer?
I'll second that.
Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Do we need electronic? Oh, sorry. We'll put it to vote.
Councillor Crew. Motion passes 15-0.
We have two announcements by the mayor.
The property being considered to be closed legally described as plan of survey of part of lot 66 and part of the road allowance between lot 66 and 67, south of Talbot Road, geographic township of Orford in the municipality of Chatham-Kent, depicted as part 3 on 24R 10557, being all property identification number 006740008. On June 5th, 2019, a notice of intention to close the above noted road was published in the Ridgetown Independent newspaper and on May 28th, 2019 on the municipal website for a 2-week period. I will now invite any person wishing to be heard to approach the podium and give reasons why their lands will be adversely affected by this declaration to close this portion of the road. Seeing none, what is the will of council? Councillor Oche? Oh, sorry, your mic.
Sorry. Like to put that motion forward.
Councillor Finn?
I'd like to second it.
Any questions? Seeing none? All in favor? Oh, geez.
Motion passes 15-1.
Item 11B, road closing offer to purchase, property identification number 00598-0013, Robinson Road allowance between concession 3 and 4, Community of Dresden.
The property being considered to be closed legally described as plan of survey of part of the road allowance between concessions 3 and 4, Gore of the geographic township of Camden, municipality of Chatham-Kent, depicted as part 1 and 2 on 24R 10251. During the week of May 28, 2019, a notice of intention to close the above noted road was published in the Sydenham Current newspaper for a 2-week period on May 28, 2019 on the municipal website for a 2-week period. I will invite any person wishing to be heard to approach the podium and give reasons why their lands will be adversely affected by this declaration to close this portion of the road. Seeing none, what is the will of council? Councillor McGrail?
I would like to put this motion forward, please.
Councillor Latimer?
I'll second that.
Any questions? Seeing none, we'll put it to vote.
Motion passes 15-0.
Item 12A, Your Worship, we have a deputation by Rob Nelson regarding connecting to CK. Rob, please join us at the podium. Welcome.
Mayor, Council, thank you for having us. You're going to see a few of our ambassadors handing out what they will be doing and what Connecting CK is all about, is promoting CK. Okay. You're doing an awesome job. Thank you. Folks, there's a few people that understand some of my background. I just want you to understand a little bit of why this all came together and a little bit of a history before I go into the slides. I've been in business here with my wife, Kim, back here, for about 15 years in the community. We currently have really focused on Chatham-Kent in the last 5 or 6 years. We've worked outside the community, inside the community. Between all of our partnerships that we've formed, I think we manage about 240 employees / contracted workers in our different businesses, and probably have a payroll of close to $15 million. So we understand how to grow things. We understand how to bring partnerships together, because every one of our companies is a partnership. We've brought small businesses to form large businesses. So this is really what we're doing here, is creating a partnership through nonprofit, municipal, and the private sector, and bringing all of those sectors together so that we can build a stronger CK. Okay? So 9-10 years ago, Rob Browning was the CAO at the time, came to me and came to my investment group and said, we need to have a public-private partnership. And I said, Rob, I think your idea is phenomenal. I said, but it's 2010. The private sector is struggling after 2008. I said, Council, I'll just look at it as it is. We still have amalgamation in the air. We still have different views on where things need to be. And administration is in a change again. I said, once the economy gets a little stronger, I believe your idea is phenomenal. So here we are 9 years later. We have a stronger council. We have a more vibrant council. Amalgamation is 21 years ago. Administration's changed. The private sector is flourishing. None of us can find good help now. Or, if anybody doesn't, is anybody who is in Chatham-Kent who isn't working doesn't want to work. We're bringing people in from all over Ontario now to work for us. So I think in the non-for-profits seem to be flourishing. This is one of the most giving communities I've ever seen. So I think we've got a lot of good things happening now. So now we're ready to try and launch Connecting to CK. Sorry, I'm suffering from a cold, so if I sound a little groggy, I am. Gone over that. We met with Don, the mayor, some of Audrey's and Amy's group to go over the concept, and it was suggested by Don and the mayor to bring this to council so you understand what we're thinking and how we can grow this together. So that's why we're here tonight. So this is a private industry lead, which is right now a couple of our companies. Abstract has taken the forefront on all the web design, and now joined in showing how communities work together. 3 other marketing arms, Hub being one of them, and I can't remember all the names off the top of my head, but there's 2 other marketing companies locally who've united to grow a better product here, which will allow them to unite to attract larger projects together. So that's what we're going to see in this private enterprise move. By putting all of our human assets and corporate assets together, we'll be able to attract much larger products and much better results in our economy. The next partnership is non-for-profit. I've asked Steve Pratt to be the chair of this committee. I think Steve brings great elegance and his attention to detail. There he is. His calmness to lead this initiative throughout the community. And now we're asking the municipality to utilize your assets, your knowledge, to help us grow this product. This is a live document. It'll always be flourishing, and we'll show you what the template looks like. We are here just to bring and collaborate all the assets that are already existing in the community and tie them into one portal. So that's our objective, is not to displace anything that's being done right now, is to collectively take all of the human assets, all the corporate assets, and put them in one spot. So right now, we've identified, I believe everybody's called them communities, the 23 communities. We've rebranded it and called it neighborhoods, because we think it's a softer name, and we're bringing all 23 neighborhoods and any of their subsectors together within inside of Connecting to CK. So we need ambassador groups inside of every community to make sure that they're led both by all 3 sectors, municipality, non-for-profit, and the private sector, and that they are the welcome center and the knowledge center for their community, whether it's internal residents or people that are visiting to CK. We want people to feel welcome. So I know we have a couple of our family coming in from Australia for to be relocated here in the next few weeks, and one of the senior companies that is employing them said, our HR department does not have the ability to drive people around, show them everything there is in CK, because it is a vast market, and in order to make sure that they felt welcome and shown everything, what have you, in the community. And they also need to be connected to the community. So what we're saying is that we have a lot of ambassadors already from the community that are all volunteers, and we'll match the ambassador with the people that are coming to town, or the people that are already here in town that have moved here and may not have a connection. They may have a hobby in cooking, they may have a hobby in whatever it happens to be. Fishing, obviously, is a popular sport around here, golfing, whatever it happens to be. And we'll age match them so that they have what we used to know, a lot of us, as pen pals. They're going to have local pals to rely on, to engage them in the community and keep them in the community. So that will be part of our ambassador program. So when we mentioned this to Ethanol Greenfield, they said, we're on board, and so will every HR department and every company be on board. You've just saved us thousands and thousands of dollars by retaining good people and showing us how to embrace these people versus them moving into community and never getting to meet but maybe 2 or 3 neighbors. So we need to hold everybody here. It's a very, very competitive market out there for people, and that's what makes communities grow. That's what makes our tax base grow. Where did we get to the? So we created a web portal. I'm going to have you pull it up. So Mark's been the lead on this. I'm going to say him and Patty and the team. Okay, so this is basically what we're looking at. And this is our base design. And that we will be able to have people go in there and know a live calendar of every event that's going on in the community. So anybody in the community or coming to the community only has to go to one website. And our website, both mobile and web-based, will connect to everybody else's websites in the community with optimized search engines, which drives CK to a much higher platform when people are looking for things to do. And so they can look at different events that are going on, whether it's housing, so we can have all the centralized housing in there, the rentals, hotels, all the things that you're looking for in a community, fishing derbies to, crocheting thing, whatever your hobby happens to be. So those are the items that were going to be included. There'll be daily trip planners. I don't know if you can pull that up. So if you're planning a trip to CK, it'll allow you to put in all your items, search your items, know what you want to do, plan everything out for you. It'll suggest, oh, there's a restaurant nearby. Maybe check out this restaurant or check out this theater or whatever hobbies you seem to be interested in. And we'll allow everybody to link to this in order to, again, draw everybody together. The employment, obviously the employment is going to be huge section that will have all job listings, postings will be in there. I think I heard a stat from council, somebody in council, that we're second in Ontario for jobs not filled. That's not something we want to be. Brantford being number one and us being number two. I know we just hired a number of people in different businesses that we own, and 90% came from outside the community. We tried for years trying to find the right people here, and these are 6-digit jobs. These are great jobs. So, and now that people are seeing who we are here and what our housing costs are, it certainly is an eye-opener for them to want to move here. Next real important part of this is our youth. So in keeping and retaining our youth, I see as a very big problem because Darren's pulled some children. I have a 14-year-old here of my youngest of 5, and my other ones have moved away. There's nothing to do is usually what we hear. If you engage the youth now as ambassadors, and they're connected to all the businesses and all the non-for-profits, they're more likely to stay here. So our biggest ambassador group will have to be our youth. So kids from grade 9 to 12, and connect them with other kids in that community, in all communities, so they know what things there are to do, instead of saying, there's nothing to do in Chatham-Kent. And then they'll spur more ideas for more private sectors of things to do. They'll tell us what they want to do. And then that will create more enterprise. So we have to listen to our youth to retain our youth. We can't tell them what they need to do. They'll tell us. And they'll tell us by being ambassadors. So it'll allow all the schools and all the kids to get their credit hours, or 40 credit hours, or whatever it is, volunteer hours plus, through this ambassador program. So we'll highly engage the youth to understand how to grow what Chatham-Kent needs to be. We'll go to the summary. So we focused on jobs, we focused on the housing and all that. So basically, we feel that it's very strong. We've engaged some of the community leaders that we've asked. No one said that this is not a good idea. Everybody said this is time that we do this together, and that we all work together as a community to bring this to the forefront. So we're now self-funded. We're registered as a non-for-profit. To date, the funding has come from Andrew's company and our companies. So we've not asked anybody for any funding yet. We've registered as a non-for-profit. We will be asking for seed capital to make this run. Our operational costs be somewhere around $200,000 a year to have a full-time employee and assistant, and our ambassadors, cost of ambassadors, and cost of all to run the web-based portals. We will not be obviously running under the Municipal Act, so we have a little more speed to market. Nothing wrong with the Municipal Act, but we have to identify what is real. So we ask for your assistance. And any questions, I'm open to answer.
Questions? Councillor Oche?
Through your worship, what nonprofits have you connected with? Like, are you connecting with the nonprofits in every neighborhood, as you call them now?
Yeah, so we've reached out to Steve at the moment, and we've talked to others. So right now, we're just at the stage now that we're going to start opening this up. But we're going to do a test pilot for Wallaceburg, Chatham, Blenheim, Erio, and Mitchell's Bay, and get the model right, and get all the everything worked out, the kinks worked out for the first year, and then we'll work out to scale it up to the rest of the neighborhoods, because we don't want to open up everything at once and not know where our challenges may be.
So, through you, your worship, will you be connecting with the Lions, Lioness?
Everybody's
Rotary?
welcome. 100% of every community member is welcome. So it doesn't matter what non-for-profit, municipality, or what business, we bring everybody together.
Okay. Well, if you need any information for the Ward 1 area, Melissa and I will be glad to help.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Councillor Scotchy?
Just one real quick comment. I love the look and love the concept. So looks great so far. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councillor Latimer?
Thank you, City Mayor. Is there any other associated costs besides that 200,000? And the second question is, is there a particular way you become an ambassador, or is everyone welcome to be an ambassador?
I'll let Patty speak to the ambassador program because she's heading it up, but no, everybody is definitely welcome in our view to become an ambassador, but there will be a program that they have to go through.
Yeah.
You want to speak to it?
Yeah.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Nice to see you all. So that's a great question. Thank you. Currently, we are recruiting ambassadors because what we know is that water seeks its own level. Birds of a feather flock together. So we have reached out to people that get the concept. Everybody gets it, and they'll tell two friends, and so on and so on. So currently, we are recruiting. We still have an interview process. We talk about the roles and responsibilities. At one point, you will see more than red shirts. You'll see red suit coats, and they will populate all manner of events and conferences and so forth. And at some point, we will open it up to an application process, yes.
Through the mayor. So what's the timeline, and who do they contact? Do they contact the website?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The phone number currently, until the website's live and active,
Okay.
they can contact me. I'm happy to speak with anyone.
And what is your timeline for those? You said 4 projects, or you mentioned?
So my vision is to amass upwards of 100 ambassadors because we're going to keep them very busy. We're a large geographic, of course. Currently, we're at a dozen already. I make a baker's dozen. So we want to be able to manage it. As Rob spoke of, even with the portal and before we launch into our neighborhoods and include our neighborhoods as sub-portals, we want to get the ambassador program right as well. So the ambassadors that have currently been recruited and are engaged with me are teaching me as much as I am them.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Harrigan?
Great, thank you for that great presentation, Rob. This is really exciting. I just noted on your slides there's an identified need for the business directory needing updating ASAP. Later in council, we'll have a bit of a presentation on marketing, but when you say ASAP, are we talking private sector time or public sector time ASAP? Like, when are
Private
you
sector
looking
time.
to make those links?
Yeah, we don't want it updated, then it's outdated. So we will be creating our own databases, and there's many ways to do it. And Mark and his team can speak to that much better. But any of the assets that you currently have that you can share, or we can link to, so it's going to your website. We're not taking your data and grabbing it. But if there's anything that we can link to, Hub has a lot of information, Hub Creative, and they're supplying that to us. And there's lots of, we'll look at every non-for-profit that wants us to link to them, and we'll link to them. Because the quicker we see the use on getting there, and then we set in some daily motions of why people need to repeat to go to this database or go to this portal, the more you get people using it, the more data that they're going to be craving for, as people know. So that's the whole concept of this is that it's one site that links all sites together. We're not writing content and displacing anybody. We're just bringing everybody together with a human touch.
Yeah. And I think what's important about the municipal partnership aspect of that is that means our website, if you're linking to the pages as we're going through this process of website redesign, will have to be maintained and kept up to date. Because if you have the search engine optimization to get people there and then they click a link and it becomes dead for whatever reason, or it's one layer of the many onion layers within the municipal website, then that could be problematic. So hopefully your group will be working really closely with our team, and I know the report references your group as well, so looking forward to that.
Thank you.
Councillor Crew?
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. Rob, first of all, I noticed all these folks wearing red, and I thought it was Raptors red, but now it's Connect, what is it called?
Yeah, connecting to CK.
Connecting to CK, that's great. How long have you been working on this?
9 years.
9 years, that's great.
If you want to know the honest truth. But
it doesn't feel like 9 years.
Collectively in the last 5 or 6 months, we started gathering some information last fall and started getting momentum of a bunch of people. There's probably 30-ish corporations that have already expressed a very strong interest, and we said once we get the format done, once we've presented this to council, then we'll start bringing more in. But again, I'm more the steady turtle wins the race than trying to grow something too quick, throw it on market, and then you're not accepted.
That's right,
So,
and I believe in the partnerships and the growth and one question I have is how can we as a council support you? Like individually, we can be ambassadors or whatever, but
100%.
How as a council can we support these efforts?
I think we need to, in each one of your wards, we need to identify who will be our ambassador group there, who are the key leaders in each community, and if we could have that in that handshake, we'll go a long ways.
Okay.
And obviously, there's going to be some economic things that we need to look at strategizing. So I'm not saying increase the budget. I'm saying maybe reallocate it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Councillor Kirkwood-White.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to congratulate you, Rob, Kim, and all of the partners that you brought together. I think everybody around this horseshoe knows how much I have promoted tri-sector integration and getting business, government, and voluntary sector to work together. So you've actually brought it to fruition, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Karen, and thank you for your hard work.
Councillor Solomon.
Thank you, Worship, and thank you for the presentation, Rob. It's sounded very, very positive. I've got the kind of question I always ask, and that's a financial one. I note that in the handout that we got, you're seeking capital investments, seed capital investments. Is that to come from the 30-ish corporations, or are you looking at it coming from the public purse?
We're looking at it to come from all parties involved. So we know the private sector will be the first to come to the table because obviously the private sector is funding it at this time. We feel that non-for-profits, which we will be, we are a non-for-profit, will fund some of it. We think there's going to be some economics in our calendar. We have some unique products behind this that will be selling advertising, so it will create a lot of the economics to it. And yes, definitely with the municipality, because we think we're going to encourage and support what the municipality is doing to flourish the municipality. So, as I say, there's some partnerships, whether it's a trade show or whether it's some marketing together or whatever it happens to be. I believe that there should be some joint ventures with municipalities because we're helping grow the municipality, growing the tax base.
Yeah, I think you projected that very well, and we understood that part. I meant direct payments. Is that, are we to be part of the seed capital? Is that?
Yeah, we'd like you to be part of the seed capital.
Okay.
I'd like Doug Solomon's law office to be part of the seed capital,
Oh, yeah.
too. It's called private enterprise.
I just need 400 houses to sell or something, but anyway.
I'm building them right across from your office.
I know you are, Rob. I know I look out the window at you and wave every day. Okay, but I was just wondering if there was a number. If we don't have, I know we don't have anything in the budget for 2018 that I'm aware of allocated to this. I was just wondering, we'll get a future report at some point in time that has financial implications?
Thank you, Worship. Yes, there will be a report forthcoming to council for your consideration. When Rob came to speak to us about this, we thought this is exactly the sort of thing that council has identified as a strategic priority, and we'll be considering that hopefully next week and getting some commitments. This council has also been pretty consistent in looking for collaborative joint ventures in the community. In terms of the numbers, Councillor Solomon's quite right. There's not a designated amount of money. So if there's going to be a recommendation coming forward for funding contributions, we'll have to find another reallocation within our existing approved budget for council's consideration or some other form of funding. But that's what would be you'd expect to receive in the report.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you, Rob.
Thanks, Doug.
Seeing no more questions, I just want, thanks, Rob. This is the perfect example to me of a public-private partnership coming together, bringing the whole community together to achieve what is probably one of our more significant issues is this resident attraction retention. So I'm really excited about this opportunity. I'm looking forward to working together as a community. And again, you point out that we're not looking to duplicate anything. That's not the exercise here in any way, shape, or form. We want to come together, and if one group's doing one thing, another will tie it together. 100%. So I want to thank you and the entire group for putting this together. Looking forward to seeing this rise to the top.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thanks.
Deputations, Your Worship? I believe Meredith has some deputations to announce.
We do. We have two deputations this evening. The first up will be Harry Lawson. He's speaking on item 16B, tender award for the rehabilitation of the Wheatley Road Bridge. Next will be Steve Pratt and Laurie Langford on item 18A. And I'll just remind both speakers that you have 5 minutes.
Mayor, Caniff, and councillors, I'm here once again speaking on behalf of the Kent Federation of Agriculture and our rural membership. Tonight there's a bridge tender up for approval here, and I'd like to pass a few comments on that. It's quite a high volume road, and one of the our main questions is the report to council doesn't say anything about the timing of when this construction will happen or how long it may take. I understand this, it's going to be precast slab, so that's should be relatively quick, but I think the farmers would kind of like some assurance that it wouldn't all happen during the busy season, and years like this, you never know when that's going to happen. So. Now, one of the things I noticed here in this contract was almost $490,000, and did a little bit of checking around with one other contractor who's not real popular locally. But anyway, a quote for a pressure-treated wood Gullman slab bridge would be $230,000, which is less than half price, would save $260,000, and it would last 30 to 40 years, which is the same time frame they're speaking of here for almost $500,000. Or the fiberglass composite would be $354,000, and it would last 75 to 100 years. So, and basically they would go in the same type of basically drop-in slabs the way similar to what's being undertaken here, kind of the same thing, different material. And I've also found in a trade publication that he mailed out, and apparently in Missouri, a study was done on versus concrete versus steel bridges, and they found there that steel was 25% cheaper on concrete, mainly on spans less than 50 feet. So that's because steel for the girders is much cheaper than precast concrete. So anyway, not to take a lot of your time tonight, but we're kind of disappointed that the Bridge Innovation Committee never really looked beyond Chatham-Kent, because like things like this, the steel bridges and stuff, that's something that that committee should have kind of looked upon, but Chatham-Kent needs to get their head out in the sunshine and quit losing these opportunities that cost taxpayers money. So thank you.
Next up, we have Steve Pratt and Laurie Langford. They are speaking on item 18A, Community Meetings, Information and Recommendations.
Good evening, Mayor Kenneth, Council, and Administration. First of all, I need to really thank you for everything that you've been doing to show support for our local nonprofit sector. It's been truly, truly, truly inspiring. And so, as we mentioned, we're here to talk about item 18A, the Community Meetings Information and Recommendations Grant for Information Report. And I truly appreciate Mayor Caniff's steadfastness in ensuring that we're not duplicating services in our community. And with that, we've recently received some really great news that we would like to now share with you.
Good evening. I am Laurie Langford, the coordinator for the Chatham-Kent Nonprofit Network. In short, we would like to save the municipality some money. The Chatham-Kent Nonprofit Network very recently received a grant from Microsoft that supports nonprofit organizations in connecting with grant opportunities. This program is accessible to all nonprofits in our community free of charge. They can access this database from any location with an internet connection, including from their home, their office, at the library. In addition, we are able to support nonprofits through the grant application process, and we are able to link them to the resources they require to successfully complete a grant application. We have also recently partnered with the Ontario Nonprofit Network, Clearview Training, Innovation Works, and the Pillar Network, both out of London, to bring capacity building workshops to our community to assist in developing skills for nonprofits to secure the funds they need to operate. We have been investigating grant matching software for several months with other nonprofit networks in Ontario. As part of this process, we also consulted with Tanya Sharp, the chief librarian, who informed us that the Grant Connect program that was available in the past at local library branches was underutilized. However, if we felt that the community would benefit from this service being available, she would be open to the idea of doing a cost share. The good news is we were able to connect with a similar platform through Microsoft, and they were able to provide us with a grant allowing us to offer this service to nonprofits in our community free of charge, provided that they're a member of the Chatham-Kent Nonprofit Network, and the membership to this network is free. With regards to the mailing list that is referenced in the report to Council, the Chatham-Kent Nonprofit Network currently has a newsletter already going out to 515 interested members that belong to local nonprofits, charities, service clubs, and community groups. We currently collaborate with multiple community organizations to share our similar information as outlined in the report to Council. We would be very happy to collaborate with the municipality to share any information that is relevant to local nonprofit groups through our pre-existing channels, and we're always happy to add to our distribution list if there are groups who are not currently connected. Sending nonprofits to yet another point of information for the purposes outlined in this report would not only be a duplication of efforts, it would also be thwarting the efforts of the many community volunteers who have been involved in this project to date. It would seem to be logical to keep all of the information easily accessible in one information hub that is connected not only to Chatham-Kent, but across Ontario and Canada, versus establishing a new municipal database for this purpose. That being said, we fully realize we are far from perfect, and we are continually striving to never stop improving. We are well aware of the many issues that the local nonprofit sector is facing and would welcome any partnership opportunities in strengthening the local support for our local nonprofit sector with the municipality. That is why the United Way has been committed to supporting the Chatham-Kent Nonprofit Network, their 5th year to do so, because we believe that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, even greater when its parts share resources, tools, and best practices. Thank you. Any questions?
There's no questions during the deputations. You get questions when we
sorry.
get 18A,
Okay.
at that point.
Thank you very much.
It's yours, consent.
Okay, number 14, consent agenda. Any items to remove from the consent agenda and placed aside for consideration and debate separately? Councillor Solomon?
Thank you, Your Worship. 14A3.
Councillor Harrigan?
Thank you. 14A1.
Can I get a motion to accept all of the other items in the consent agenda? Councillor Latimer?
I'll move that.
Councillor Finn?
I'll second.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item 14A1, Councillor Solomon.
I'm 14A3.
All right, so 14A3.
Thank you. I guess it's to Ms. Bish or to Ms. Wilcox or both. This is an information report, but it also deals with the area that we just spoke about or just had a presentation on in part. It says one such potential partnership is connecting to CK, which we just heard about for about, I guess, half an hour or so. And what I'd like to know is there's no financial impact section in your report, I guess because it says it's informational, but I take it that there's nothing that goes on around here that doesn't have a financial impact of some sort of description, whether it's immediately in this report or whether we find out sometime later. So what's the financial, is there any financial impact? Is there a second report coming? Our oversight obligations as councilors is to ask that question.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. So the report just basically outlines at a high level the types of marketing that we do. The Experience CK website is going to be launched by corporate, and probably best if Amy speaks to that, if you'd like, Amy.
I'm sure you could hear all that, but go ahead.
Through you, Your Worship, to Councillor Solomon.
Yep.
You asked if there was a financial impact to the portion of Experience CK. There is no additional financial impact. The software that's being used is already purchased and used by the municipality. The only financial implication would be using resources, time, to populate the tool.
Okay, so this report dealing with Chatham-Kent Marketing Initiatives update is all internal work that'll be done, right? And the connecting to CK is, as we heard, a private industry-led enterprise. I was just wondering, in part, because I didn't really hear that before, did we consider, I mean, it's been 10 years, or 9 years, I guess, is what Rob said. Did we consider being the lead in the connecting to CK? And was there a reason that we didn't do it, that the municipality didn't do it, or isn't doing it?
Thank you, Your Worship. If I can, I'll try that one.
Internally, I meant. Yeah.
In answer to Councillor Solomon's question, I think we did take a lead in terms of forming the Resident Attraction and Retention Program, and Council's been supporting that since, I believe it's now 7.5 years that Audrey Ansel was first placed in that position. The reason for this report today was really, given that Rob Nelson and the team were presenting in front of Council, we wanted to give council an overview of what some of the current initiatives are and how they could be complementing some of the work that the Connecting to CK would also be doing. So some of the work has been working in parallel. There's a common recognition of the need for resident attraction and retention. And I think right across all of our economy, there's been a recognized need for a skilled workforce. And how we can actually attract people here, market Chatham-Kent, and also retain people here, I think is something that council's recognized in some of your early deliberations about priorities. What we're trying to do here is to make sure that you're aware of some of the current initiatives, and as you're making decisions around the Connecting to CK piece, you could see how we could work together with the private and other not-for-profit groups to provide those services. So I think council has, in direct answer, is 7.5 years ago, council provided a funding initiative to actually do resident attraction and retention and to market our community so we could attract people here and retain them.
Councillor Finn?
Thank you, Mayor, through you. So with regards to the website survey, I got a call this weekend. Somebody was trying that, and it said as soon as they log on to the website, they'd be asked if they wish to complete the survey. It's not popping up. Is there a spot they click on, or are they doing it wrong?
Through you, Mayor Caniff, to Councillor Finn. I'll try to take this one. Are you referring to a survey for the homelessness strategy plan?
No, it's in here. It says the municipal website requires significant changes. And it says during the month of June, the first phase of community engagement and review of user experiences will be launched. Website users, when accessing the municipal website, will be asked whether they'd like to do the survey.
That will be to the end of June. A media release will go out to council as well as to the public, letting them know that the survey has launched.
Thank you.
Councillor Kirkwood-White?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Amy. Amy, on the surface, this really looks like a duplication of effort from what we just heard that Rob Nelson provided. Can you give us some reassurance that it's not? And can you give us an idea of how long you've been working on this and who on staff is actually doing the content for the website? Because when I looked at all the little links on the slide that Rob threw up, there are a lot of similarities in when you click on. So if you click on, you're going to get a list of stuff. And then where is that list coming from? Is it coming from something that Rob put together, or is it coming from you? And is that the connecting part that we're talking about?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Councillor Kirkwood-White. Sounded like you had 3 questions there. How long we've been working on it, who are the internal resources, and to ask if I feel that there's duplication of effort. Okay. So the first is we've been working on this for about 5 to 6 months. Started from a discussion with IT on providing a scorecard for CK Plan 2035 when we identified the ArcGIS software that would provide the story mappings that you see in Experience CK. Who's been working on it? It's a joint venture through corporate communications, economic development, resident attraction and retention, which also houses tourism. You asked about duplication of effort. Our team has gone through the tabs for Connecting to CK and compared that to the taxonomy of the pages within the municipal website. We agree there is quite a few duplication. You'll recall in Rob's presentation, he mentioned that that's not something we want, is to duplication. And he mentioned that most of those would click or redirect people to the municipal website, where he mentioned that the municipal website would be housing most of the information. You asked where it would be coming from. All of the business units have been contributing and populating those story maps. We also will be sending out an email to all businesses that are currently on the Check It database through Public Health. We will also be sending an email out to all businesses in our e-service directory. That will be coming as well, mid to end June. And we'll be going to Business After Hours to showcase soft launch the tool to businesses there, asking for their feedback.
One more question, if you will allow me. Amy, have you been aware of what's been going on with Rob Nelson and his group since he started actively in about 5 or 6 months ago?
We were able to see the tool about 2 months ago, and that's when I brought up that we felt there potentially could be some duplication.
Councillor Latimer?
Thank you, through the mayor. Amy, I'm agreeing with Councillor Kirkwood-White. I thought that perhaps you were telling me that you were generating information and feeding it into this portal, not two different portals. It's two different portals, right? That will link each other. So we've got, correct?
Through the worship to Councillor Latimer, as Rob Nelson during his presentation stated, that we would be housing the information and that his website would be redirecting to the municipal website. So therefore, yes, there would be some duplication.
As someone coming into CK, I would really be confused. Why do I have to go to the municipal website? And then I would go right here, connecting to CK, that would link you to the website. But why could you not work together to generate the same database?
This information is already contained in the municipal website. Lots of it is contained under Living CK and Visiting CK if you go to the municipal website.
I've been there.
Okay.
Mr. Shropshire?
Thank you. So, as Amy's pointed out, about 2 months ago, Rob's initiative got shared. We'd already had about 4 or 5 months in the can in terms of trying to do some work. So what we're trying to do now is, first we wanted to get in front of council to make sure that council was aware of this Connect to CK initiative. I mean, great that a few staff and the mayor hear about it, but this whole council needs to be aware and understand what the opportunities are. So that was the purpose of this evening. We are looking for ways to actually look at some complementarity and reduce any of the chance of duplication. I think when we're looking at some of these issues, some things I would recommend to you that the municipality, we're going to be hopefully around for 100 or more years. There's certain things that we have some responsibilities to make sure that we're going to maintain and continue to support. There's going to be some other things that, quite frankly, private and not-for-profit sector can complement and do better than we can. So what we're still trying to look at is how do we find the complementarity and how do we find a way to not duplicate, but to do what we can do best and look to the other groups to see what they can do. Currently, when you look at the face of it, yes, it looks like there's two different pieces. But I would not want to look at, we haven't worked all of the bugs out for that yet, but I would not recommend to council that we turn around, just discontinue or not put things on our website. We've actually had, and I'm not sure that's what you were suggesting, but we recognize that's there and we're trying to work with Rob and say, if we're doing something like recommending where people can go to eat in Chatham-Kent, we'd have all the lists of all the different restaurants in Chatham-Kent that could be populated, and they can just direct it over there. There's going to be other things that they're going to do that we would not have on our website.
Thank you. I want to make sure that they interface and that you aren't doing the work and they're doing the work, and then we end up with two lists that we have to both now work together to interface.
We want exactly the same thing. That's what we're working towards. Thank you for the question.
Councillor Harrigan?
Just a quick budget question. Thank you for this. I noticed on page 6, there's the timeline for the refresh for the CK project, and in budget, we had allocated some dollars to the website refresh. Was our assumption at budget time that we were going to do this internally, or was the assumption that we may have to go to contract?
There are certain things on our website we do not have the internal talent for. There would definitely have to be an RFP for that. There's certain things that we're actually trying to do with, as Amy described earlier, we're populating as much as we can. We're doing the wireframes basically to construct it. But if council chooses next week to actually put a higher level of emphasis on community engagement and trying to get that message out and refresh the website, there would be a commitment that we'd have to bring somebody in that has additional skill sets. We don't currently have that. Mike and I were meeting with the IT staff this afternoon to confirm that point. It's a great question.
Councillor Kirkwood-White?
Thank you, Your Worship. And through you to probably Dawn, there is another software package that ECDev is using, Townfolio or something. Can you explain what that does that might also look like what Rob's trying to do?
No, I can't, but Stuart McFadden sitting directly behind you, I'd ask him to answer the
Thank
question.
you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Townfolio was a software package we were searching out after some of our discussions for the red tape challenge. They were told us we didn't have enough local demographic information businesses needed in order to be able to help understand their community. So Townfolio has been used by tens of thousands of communities across North America, very highly recommended inside of our budget. So we were able to come up with a deal with them and adopt them into our site. So they have all different types of things that they gather information from CRA, they gather information from StatsCan. We have the ability to be able to manipulate some of those things locally as well if we have other information. So we're just getting involved with Townfolio, and we're going to expand that presence and as we get to learn it a little bit better.
Seeing no other questions, Councillor Solomon, can I get a motion to accept? Actually, we'll wait till we go through both. Councillor Harrigan?
Thank you. Just a really quick question on the corporate report. I very much appreciated the way that this information was presented. I think for the average resident of CK, it gives a really good snapshot on what they're spending their tax dollars on. Through you, I believe to Amy, is there a plan or potential conversations in place for us to cut this up a little bit and then leverage things like social media so we can share it in bits and pieces? Because I think this information is valuable and should be dispersed a bit more widely than just buried in a corporate report in the council agenda.
Thank you, Your Worship, through to Councillor Harrigan. Thank you for your question. The municipal annual report is posted on the municipal website, has for the last 3 to 4 years. And last year, what we did was exactly what you just suggested. We cut out kind of fun facts and we post them every week, and that's what we plan on doing for this year as well.
Fabulous, thank you.
Okay, can I get a motion to accept 14A1 and 14A3? Seconded by Councillor Latimer. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item 15, notices of motion. Councillor Harrigan.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. So I, Councillor Harrigan, hereby provide notice that I will bring forward the following motion at the June 24th council meeting for discussion and voting. Whereas the municipality has historically and continues to provide assistance to community groups across CK as part of their beautification initiatives, and CK is committed as a municipality to supporting community groups in their efforts to achieve goals. Therefore, be it resolved that administration provide a report to council identifying the current levels of service for support of beautification initiatives provided to communities for services such as flower basket hanging and holiday streetlight decorations, and that this report recommend processes or policies, new and existing, to improve the scheduling and/or equalization of service levels across CK alongside the budget implications associated with those recommendations, and that council is to receive this report in time to provide direction ahead of the 2019 holiday beautification initiatives taking place across CK this winter.
Councillor Hall.
Thank you, Mayor Kenneth. I, Councillor Aaron Hall, hereby provide notice that I will bring forward the following motion at the June 24th, 2019 council meeting for discussion and voting. Whereas Canada Day is an occasion celebrated each July 1st all across our country, and whereas free events are held each year all across Chatham-Kent to recognize and celebrate Canada Day, and whereas these events are accessible and available to all residents in our communities, bringing a sense of unity and pride, and whereas fireworks are a traditional yet costly finale for these events, and whereas the application for this year's Canada Day event in Wallaceburg for community partnership funding was not considered due to the for-profit status of the applicant, and whereas the organizers of the Wallaceburg Canada Day event have subsequently partnered with a not-for-profit charitable organization, therefore be it resolved that Chatham-Kent provide $5,000 to the Moose Lodge in Wallaceburg to be used specifically for the fireworks display for the July 1st, 2019 Canada Day event in Wallaceburg. These funds will come from the Community Partnership Fund. Furthermore, all other Canada Day event applications that were denied community partnership funding due to the for-profit status of the applicants be considered for the same level of funding on the condition that the organizers create a partnership with other not-for-profit charitable organizations.
Item 16, tender awards. Item 16A, tender award T19-257, pedestrian signal installation in Blenheim and Tilbury.
Councillor Oche,
So I'd like to make, move both recommendations, please.
Councillor Harrigan.
Happy to second the recommendation.
Any questions? Seeing none, we'll put it to vote.
All votes are in, motion passes 15-0.
Item 15B, tender award contract T17-342, rehabilitation of the Wheatley Road Bridge over Campbell Side Road Drain, Community of Romney.
Councillor Harrigan.
I'll move the recommendation.
Councillor Oche.
I'll second that.
Questions? Councillor Harrigan.
Just following the deputation received tonight, a quick question around the timing on when the bridge work will happen.
Thank you, Mayor Kenneth. So the construction of the bridge will not commence until after November 30th, and with the total completion date for November 30th, 2020. When the actual project does commence, however, it's approximately an eight week to 2 month turnaround for construction. So it doesn't mean that it's going to be closed for a year. It just means that the project will not commence until after that date, with the completion date of up to November 30th, 2020.
Councillor Oche.
Thank you, Your Worship. Chris, is that pushed back to November for farming season?
Thank you, Mayor Kenneth. So the pushback was requested due to the wind farm operations utilizing Wheatley Road. So as to not to allow for continuous construction activity for the wind farm development out in that area. The completion date for the wind farm activity is going to be around the beginning, mid-November. So that's why we put that date as a commencement date to accommodate that schedule.
Okay, through you, Your Worship. So I know, I believe it says they have until the end of 2020 almost, November 2020, to finish it. Is there a way that we can try to get it maybe in, not in farming season, like say like not in August, September, or when they're taking wheat and beans off? It's a fairly busy area with farms, so that's why I'm asking that.
So we put this project out for that tender to allow for that extended window to achieve obviously a better price, which it did work to our benefit. This project did come in under our engineer's estimate as well. So allowing for that longer window of construction, that opportunity for a contractor to fit it into their schedule actually proved to be more of a benefit. We'll work with the contractor, of course, when we do award this project to the contractor and have that pre-construction meeting to make sure and get a better understanding of what their schedule is. But as of right now, we have no real date identified to when this is going to start.
Okay, thank you. Just one more question, if I could, but it would be through to Thomas. Thomas, you heard the deputation earlier. The planks and the pressure-treated planks and the fiberglass, obviously quite a savings, but do you have a reason why we went with this particular one instead of either of those? Or Chris, whoever would like to answer it.
So the recommendation, how we proceeded this way is we took a look at this structure and we tried basically to salvage as much as possible of the existing structure to call this a true rehabilitation. This isn't a full replacement. We're rehabilitating just the deck portion. We're salvaging the concrete abutments and the concrete piers. So basically the innovative strategy that we used was trying to determine what has the most remaining useful life in the structure and what types of new materials can we work in conjunction with what we're salvaging to ultimately get the best value for the remaining service life of that 30 to 40 years. So that's why we came up with the precast concrete deck panels, essentially to work with the existing structures that are going to remain in place. So we do obviously we continue to investigate all different new opportunities and the risks associated with each of them. We did look at various other options, including steel, and it was determined that the concrete abutments there were, or the concrete deck panels, I'm sorry, were the most economical for this solution. And plus, it's also going to provide with the best timing for construction as well, because they're precast structures, basically just dropping right into place with less maintenance involved.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Latimer?
Councillor Autier asked all my questions. Thank you.
Councilor Scotchy?
So thank you, Mr. Tiber. I guess I understand the method in regards to leaving it open, but what have you done from a municipal standpoint to ensure that something like New Scotland Line doesn't occur again in regards to the bridge basically being removed and then no structure in place until, because this, to me, when I read the report on Sunday night, had a lot of resemblance in regards to, I understand why we're doing this from a budget standpoint. I know that makes sense when you guys are tendering to work to see that savings. Where it doesn't make sense is if we see weather like this and you can't predict the contractor how busy they're going to be and they get into delays and now we're basically in the middle of something and it's going to be, we can have like a 5 or 6 month delay because that's technically in their contract that they can. So what have we learned in regards to, the smaller structures like that, what we can do to better that so it doesn't occur again?
Thank you, Mayor Kenneth. So this structure, I guess this project is a little bit different from with respect to New Scotland Line, whereas New Scotland Line was a bit of an emergency situation where we had the failure occur on something that we didn't have designed and ready to go for construction. Here, the bridge is still in place. It's still an active bridge. It's not currently closed for service. It's not currently load posted, but it is identified for rehabilitation. So what will remain open right up until the commencement of construction. Once that construction does commence, so anytime after that November 30th timeline, in the contract, they do have a working day allotment that they have to stick to, and that working day allotment essentially is about 2 to 2.5 months, I believe, for construction. So that's essentially what we'll hold them to, and of course, it's all subject to weather and subject to any other unforeseen delays. But once they get in and start with construction, that's when the actual, the contract will come into play with completing the project on time, which is that 8 week to 2 month time frame.
Thank you. I respect and appreciate that answer. Thank you.
Seeing no other questions, we'll vote.
Motion passes 15-0.
Item 16C, tender award contract T19-185, rehabilitation of the Easterville Road and Kent Line bridges over Longs Creek, community of Camden.
Councilor McGrail?
Yes, I'd like to put forward the motion.
Councilor Finn?
I'll second it.
Any questions? Seeing none, we'll put it to vote.
Motion passes 15-0.
Item 17, Community Human Services. Item 17A, CK to the Y, CK to the Power of Young People, age 15 to 39 initiative update. We have a brief presentation by Victoria Bodner, and I believe Colin is going to. Colin's there. I just can't see him from where I am. There he is. Thanks, Colin.
Thank you, Councillor and Mayor and Council. I'm Victoria Bodner, Coordinator of Resident Attraction and Retention, and part of my portfolio is staff support to the newly formed Chatham-Kent to the Power of Young People Advisory Group. So I'm just going to pull up our presentation quickly. Before I turn it over to Delaney Hart and Colin Chrysler, I just want to give you a couple more background updates from what we've been working on the last year since our last presentation to Council in spring of 2018. So the CK to the Power of Young People initiative includes the advisory group who you'll meet momentarily, but it also includes initiatives such as the 2 surveys that we worked on. The first being the survey of young people in 2017, so to get feedback on life in Chatham-Kent, what young people wanted, and what would keep them here, really getting the voice of young people and helping to identify areas of focus for us moving forward. And the second was the 2018 Chatham-Kent to the Power of Young People survey of organizations and businesses. So that was looking at local organizations and employers at how they're engaging young people whether they are indeed engaging young people, to help us identify areas of focus that we could work together as a community in partnership to become a more attractive community for young people locally. Using the survey feedback from both of those surveys, we have now launched the Chatham-Kent to the Power of Young People Community Action Plan, which you should have all received, which has 4 key themes that are listed above. So we launched this survey at an event earlier this spring, the David Coletto Intergenerational event, and got feedback from the community at that point on what they thought of the plan, what should be added to it, what they kind of disagreed with, and helped to refine the plan in its final form that's being presented today. We also presented this to the advisory group who is here today to get their feedback on the actual details of the plan and what they should be included within it. So we thank everyone for all the feedback that was provided, and we're excited to work with their community partners to identify each of these areas moving forward. As you can see, large support for the plan overall, so we're very happy about that. And that's about all that I'll take up of your time. And say the David Coletto event was just the kickstart off to say this is what engaging multi-generations looks like, and here are some areas that we might want to rally around as a community. So again, 89% of those event participants said that they're interested in implementing that action plan or are indeed already doing some of the action items. So we're excited about that. And now for the more exciting part of today, you get to meet some of our advisory group members who are eager to introduce themselves to you. We'll play our quick video and then I'll turn it over. Just as background, a motion from Councillor McGregor last spring brought forward the advisory group. So within that first survey in 2017, only 22% of young people said that they felt that their contributions locally were valued. And from that, Councillor McGregor put forward a motion for us to bring this group together to say, how do we get the voices and opinions of young people to the forefront more regularly, and in particular to council. So during the summer of 2018, we opened applications to the community. They were promoted through our partners, online, through the media, social media, and then we reviewed the applications. So astounding support and engagement from our local young people to be a part of this group. We had over 100 applicants apply, and lots of great in-depth answers on why they would like to be a part of the group. All applicants we look forward to engaging moving forward as well, but we now have our selected members behind me.
CK to the Power of Y Advisory Group is a group of young people ages 15 to 39 from across Chatham-Kent that work to share the voice of young people and build positive change for the future of CK. To stay connected with the CKY initiative, follow us on Facebook and Twitter at LivingCK and visit our website at livingck.ca.
Everybody, my name is Delaney Hart and I'm a member of the CK to the Power of Y Advisory Group, and I'm just here to introduce everybody today. So if I could have all of our members who are present please stand up and just say hi. So there are some of us missing and they'll be up there for your reference, but essentially we are a group of young people aged 17 to 39. We aren't all from Chatham-Kent, but we are all here now and we're from all corners of the community. So as you can see, we have people up here from Blenheim, Chatham again, Dresden, Merlin, so Pancourt, Dover, and Ridgetown, and I believe, Wallaceburg and Wheatley. So we are all from different corners of the community. We all have different interests, jobs. Some of us are still in school, and that just allows us to have a really broad opinion and broad input of young people in Chatham-Kent and what we want and what we need and what's going to bring us back here in the future. So I'm just going to turn it over to Colin, and he's going to finish.
Hi everyone, my name is Colin Chrysler, for those who don't know me. I am one of the founders of Sons of Kent Brewing Company in Chatham, and over the last few years it's been really exciting to come back to this community and drive some of these things. And it's been great for me to get involved in the CK to the Power of Y initiative as well. So I just kind of want to go over really quickly what our goals are. We are still very young in the process of getting this group moving along. So before we kind of jump into too many things right off the bat, I just kind of want to go over exactly what we represent and what our plans are. we believe that young people obviously are the future of this community, and we're very passionate about what we do. But ultimately, our goal is to be the voice of young people, engage with them, come up with ideas and initiatives to bring our community forward and build this community. We're obviously, like I said, a voice. We really want to engage with the councillors and mayor and all of the municipality, as well as, all members of the community as well, to really bring some of these ideas forward and really hopefully drive some change in the community in the future. With that being said, I don't have much more to say. We did have the pleasure of meeting the mayor and having him attend one of our meetings earlier on, which was great. And I think we got a pretty good taste of the future of where things are going. And with that being said, if anybody would like to reach out to any one of the members, we do have essentially representatives in our group from each ward, but we are all open to obviously conversations about everywhere in the community. So yeah, you can email us at cky@chathamkent.ca, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor McGregor?
Not necessarily a question, but just want to thank the advisory group members that are out here tonight and for your work so far. It's really a good sign, I think, to see that the engagement was so strong, even with the application process, and then to see such strong uptake with the community action plan as well. I think it speaks to a recognition in the community that there's a need for this type of thing. And again, just want to reiterate that we're thankful that there's people out there doing that work.
Thank you.
Item 18, Chief Administrative Office. Item 18A, Community Meetings, Information and Recommendations. Grant information.
Any direction from council? Councillor Oche?
I'll move this recommendation, please.
Seconder? Councillor Pinsino? Questions? Councillor Harrigan?
Hi, I'm just wondering, given the deputation that we received earlier today by the United Way, where I believe another private partnership model or P3 model was outlined between the CK not-for-profit network run in partnership with United Way, the Microsoft private corporate grant that they have to fund this, and then if the municipality were to partner in that initiative rather than using taxpayer dollars to fund something that seems to be a duplication of services. So I think there's good opportunity in that, and I'm just wondering if staff have considered that, given that I think it's relatively newer information that we've received tonight.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you to Councillor Harrigan. Thank you for the opportunity. We were not familiar with the information, but we are definitely pleased to hear it and would welcome any opportunity to work with United Way.
Councillor McGregor?
So does that make it appropriate to defer this recommendation until staff has a chance to work with United Way and explore that grant opportunity?
Thank you, Worship. If you could refer that back to staff, and we could go back and work with the United Way team and see how we could actually optimize the opportunities and, as Councillor Harrigan said, hopefully save some money.
So you're going to make that motion?
So I'll make a motion to defer back to staff.
Seconded by Councillor Latimer. Any other questions related to that? Seeing none, we'll put it to vote. Just in the process of putting it up on the screen. There we are.
Motion passes 15-0.
Item 19, Community Development. 18B. Oh, my apologies. 18B. Do you want to read that one? 18B, motion by Councillor Roche regarding Merlin Legion funding.
Councillor Oche?
Thank you, Your Worship. Whereas the Merlin Legion has told me they filled out the application for a grant from our community grants and just found out they did not actually get it registered on a computer. We're not sure how this happened, as May has told me they cannot see it on a computer. I am taking the Legion's word on this. I therefore move that council approve giving $2,500 to the Merlin Legion from the $387,000 Community Development Fund.
Councillor Harrigan?
I'll second the motion.
Councillor Oche?
Thank you, Your Worship. As I believe at least the past 5 years, the Merlin Legion has always filled out for this grant. They apparently filled it out, sent it in, and thought everything was fine. When they called in, as I said, they were told that it was nothing was on the computer. This is more than half their funding for the fireworks and little homecoming thing that they have every year. And as I spoke to other people, other councillors, actually, there was problems as well in a couple of the other ones. So I'm not sure if we have a glitch or if they just did not fill it out properly. But I know these people from the Legion, and I definitely believe that they would have filled it out. So I'll just leave it at that, and hopefully we can let them know they have a bit of money coming to them. Thank you.
Councillor Harrigan?
Just wanted to make a quick comment to build on that. During the application process, I was in contact directly with Amy, and then also Kathy, you were supportive of some of the community groups that had tried 3, 4, 5 times to submit the grant online, and a few times it had timed out, and sometimes it would time out after they clicked the submit button. So I think there was this IT issue that they had to correct in order to do that. So I could very easily see how a group may have thought that they submitted an application, but because of the nature of the website itself or the speed level of the internet in some of our rural communities, that the timeout may have happened prior to them actually being able to submit the application. So I just wanted to call out that, Mark, I know that you note that, it's not a guarantee that whether or not this had happened, but I think there were a number of organizations that experienced something like this during the process. So I wouldn't be surprised if this was actually the case.
Councillor Solomon?
If that's the issue, I'm supportive of the motion, but the question that I'd like answered before I would be supportive is, had the entry gone properly with the computer, would they have received the grant? I mean, that's the real question. You shouldn't have a computer glitch throw off a homecoming or whatever, or a grant, but you also have to know whether they would have got the grant anyway, had it been entered. So, if someone can answer that.
Thank you, Your Worship. Based on the fact that they've received the grant 5 previous years, I believe that they would have been, as long as it was the same. Now, we haven't reviewed the grant yet, so I can't tell you with certainty, but they did receive the grant the previous 5 years. So,
The reason I ask is I'm well aware a year ago of an organization that got the grant for 50 some odd years and didn't get the grant. So that's been corrected, but I was told we shouldn't do these things on a one-off. And as long as they would have got the grant and it was just a computer glitch, I can really sympathize with that. On the other hand, I sort of need to hear that. I thought Amy was just here a moment ago.
I believe Chief Crawford is sending out the search and rescue team to see if she's still in the building.
That the right man in charge.
Your Worship, in the interest of council, I think we've gotten the direction. If council gives us the direction to go back, ensure that the grant is reviewed, and assuming that it would have been eligible for funding, then we can go ahead and proceed with the $2,500. If there's a concern with that, we'd make the commitment to come back to council.
Yeah. You need an amendment to do that, or is that?
Hello. Welcome back. Councillor Solomon had a question whether we had actually had a chance to review the Legion's application since it was delayed, to know whether it would have been eligible for funding, and I just mentioned that they'd received grant in previous years, but I had not seen the grant for this one.
Through your worship to Councillor Solomon, thank you. You are correct, Dawn, they have received funding in the past. However, we did not receive an application from them by the due date. We have nothing on file from them, so we have nothing that we would be able to review.
That confirms the question then. Would we have funded it? Because if it's funded, yes, just need to review it. So we haven't seen the, Councillor Oche?
He tried to go on, it's no longer on there, but I have some information that I can email you right away for that.
Yes,
We'll try and take care of that within the next 24 hours or so. We'll just, the question was if we can review, council is supportive of us giving the $2,500, provided it would have been eligible for the funding had it been reviewed, received and reviewed on time. So I think the intent is that we would receive the information, and assuming that it would be eligible for funding, then we would be in a position to grant the approval. That's the motion that's being considered.
Councillor McGrail?
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. Amy, what's our policy on accepting applications? How do we send out a, thank you for your application, we are going to review, we will get back to you? Should they have gotten that kind of message so they knew that the grant was gone through and you got the grant?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you to Councillor McGrail. Applications that were successful, they would have received an email back from us that summarized all the information they had inputted. In addition to that, the municipal website updated. People who had applied provided their name and a short description of what that project was.
Just a clarification, please. So when you apply for the grant through computer services, you don't get an automatic reply back saying thank you for your application?
Yes, Councillor, when you apply through the online application, they would have received an email back stating that the application was received with a summary of the information they had inputted.
Okay, one more question, sorry. I'm not sure if you get applications through other means, the mail or faxes or anything like that. If you accept that, what is your policy on accepting those kind of applications and the acknowledgement that you got the application?
Thank you for your question, Councillor. We do not receive any paper applications for this round for the 2019 projects. They were all to be submitted through the online application form.
Councillor Pincinel?
Thank you, Your Worship. Question through to you, to Amy. How many groups of the ones who did apply within the period deadline were turned down, I guess? Like, is it several? Is it 10?
Thank you, Your Worship, through you to Councillor Pincinel. I don't have those exact numbers in front of me. A report is going to be coming to council on the 27th. There were several applications, both in the events and community project, that were deemed ineligible. There was also not enough funding for all of the events to be funded.
Okay, that was my next question, actually. So there wasn't enough funding. See, the part I struggle with here is there are groups that did get it in at the deadline and were turned down due to either funding or they weren't eligible. I just struggle with doing a one-off. Anyway, thanks.
Councillor Thompson?
Yeah, I guess, thank you very much. How would I put it? This can't possibly have been the first time that you've heard about an application that maybe they thought was submitted or one that came in after the deadline, is it?
Through you, Your Worship, to Councillor Thompson. No, Councillor, this is not the first time. In previous years, there has been other applications that have been submitted to us after the deadline, and they were not put forward to the review committee for consideration.
And then, so, okay, that answers that question. I guess my follow-up question would be, if we approve this, either we're gonna, and you said there wasn't funding, we turned folks down because there wasn't enough money to fund all of the projects, right?
Correct.
So that would mean we'd have to find another source, or even more callously, potentially bump somebody that was approved?
Council could determined to take additional funds from the Partnership Development Reserve to fund this.
Okay. Yeah, I have a tendency to agree with Councillor Pinsino. It is a shame. It really is. But we can't be handling things like this. Otherwise, I'll get other folks coming to me and asking for the same exception. Thank you.
Councillor Latimer?
I echo Councillor Thompson and Councillor Pinsino's concerns. I really do wonder, though, if something shouldn't be at the top of when they do apply, please ensure you receive a response back to ensure your application was even received. Because this is an issue we've heard. This is not the first time, and I am concerned. Likewise, that we've used all our money, and now we're going to review, and how many other groups like the Merlin Legion applied and thought they had their application in.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you to Councillor Latimer. I will include your feedback for our 2020 process. Thank you.
Councillor Crew?
Thank you. I thought Councillor Oche was ahead of me. First of all, I get the sense that people know who got what, and I haven't received a list of who's, and I understood Council was approving who received what grant. So I'm kind of taken back here and a little irritated, to tell you the truth, because it seems like there's this underlying, everybody knows something, but not everybody knows it. There's already a motion about who didn't get it. So I am just confused. And if we haven't received it and haven't approved it, I don't see why this group can't put their application in, because they haven't been sent to us yet. So I think it can be just put in that process. And this is not age friendly. All of our groups do not use computers or are not computer savvy and wait for that email to come back. Once it's timed out, they think, yeah, I'm done. It's just not age friendly. There's nothing wrong with having a piece of paper. There's counselors around us like this, like a lot of this, like paper, but they have their choice. And we ought to give our community the choice. I thought that they could get paper if they wanted. I think that's not very inclusive of us. Thank you. And I would just like to know when we can expect that list of who's getting what and how much are we giving out. We put a lot of money in that community partnership grant, so I'm kind of taken back that that's all gone as well this year.
Through your worship to Councillor Crew, sounded like there was a few questions in there. Okay. Thank you for your feedback with regards to hard copies of applications. We will include that with the other feedback for 2020. Just to advise, we have done best practices with other grants, and the majority of grants are online and do not provide paper opportunities to apply. With regards to the $387,000 that was set aside during budget, all of that has not been allocated. The report to council is scheduled to come to you Monday the 27th, which lists all the recommendations from the review committee and what was recommended and how much.
Just one more question. So how does some groups know that they weren't successful?
Thank you, Councillor. Some of your colleagues have asked for some information, and were given some feedback.
Councillor Finn.
Thank you. Just a question. After the application, when was the deadline, first of all? And did you receive phone calls from people asking if you'd received their application prior to that deadline?
Through your worship to Councillor Finn, the deadline was April the 12th. And there were definitely the Merlin. There might have been another couple, but I don't have that information readily available.
But that was after the deadline had already passed, or was that before?
Well after the deadline.
Councillor Scotchy?
Through you, Mayor Kenneth, actually, my question has just been answered. I was just looking at to see how all the feedback was being obtained, but I've got that. Thank you.
Councillor McGregor?
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. I agree with Councillor Solomon that, if there's a process issue that's led to this, doing it just as a one-off presents some challenges. So I think that as part of this motion, certainly, if it was just a mistake on a computer, it's unfortunate, and we should look at how we can rectify that. But we should also be mindful that there might have been some other groups in that situation, and as part of the motion, perhaps say that we'd offer to review applications that weren't submitted properly, so that we're making sure that we're not missing anyone out just because they didn't send an email to a councillor or call somebody. And we shouldn't kid ourselves. We do deal with one-offs here often. We did last meeting, and I venture we will most meetings. So I think we have to do our best to be mindful of that, and then look for processes that we can use to make sure that we're affording the same opportunity to other parties.
Councillor Kirkwood-White?
So if that's a friendly amendment to add on to the motion to
I'm fine with that.
for staff to review the process and offer similar opportunities to other applications that weren't submitted properly.
Sure.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a
Sorry,
comment.
you're okay in the seconder? Who's the seconder on this? Are you okay with that amendment? Okay.
And just to clarify for me, if someone contacted and said, "Oh, did you receive my application?" and you didn't because the computer timed out, that we would just take a look at it as well. That would be the commitment, I think, right? So that we know that, we're not going to have the same motion next week. Well, if you didn't get an application from them and they said they submitted one,
Councillor McGregor,
that's what's
perhaps we
happening.
could meet offline and you could provide me with maybe some steps for that process. I don't know how we would even begin to determine who attempted to apply and who didn't. IT did review to see Merlin's to see if they had started an application, it timed out. There was no record whatsoever. But if you have any ideas, I would love to hear them.
Yeah, and my recommendation is to go back and say, well, if we're going to do it this way for this organization, it's tough to then say when we receive an email tomorrow morning, hey, my application didn't go in. Does the next councillor have to make another motion? So I'm saying, really what I'm asking, is there a recommendation to figure out how we can deal with this in bulk if there's 3 or 4 others that come out of the woodwork?
Your Worship, if I might just add a comment for, in addition to what Ms. Wilcox has provided, back in early April, we did have another Wheatley organization that ran into this problem. But so they actually receive an erroring out message when that happened. So anybody who did try to submit would in fact get an error message, and that would have been their signal that their application hadn't gone through.
Councillor Kirkwood-White?
Thank you, Your Worship. I think that some of us around the table are looking forward to your report, Amy, on Monday, June the 24th. And there still seems to be some confusion about what the $387,000 is supposed to do, because if everybody recalls, we just approved funding for the Wallaceburg Concert Band and the Chatham Concert Band out of that $387,000 last meeting. So the door's still open.
Councillor McGrail?
Thank you. So just to confirm, because we've kind of been in 10 different directions here, that the IT department can definitely go in and see started applications and not finished applications. And when they can go in, does it have to be a specific search on a certain organization, or can you bring up a report that shows you organizations that have started grant applications but maybe have not finished?
Through you, Your Worship, to Councillor McGrail, I wouldn't want to speak for IT. What I did ask was for them to look for a specific application where they looked under the Merlin Legion for the Family Fun Day, and that's when they didn't see any applications started nor completed. That was something I'd have to go back and ask them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm just going to say a couple comments, then I'll pass it on to Councillor O'Shea for final remarks. I guess the first thing I want to highlight is this was the first year we did electronically. So we switched processes, so that created a lot of angst for people, and as Councillor Crew pointed out, certain people may not be as tech savvy as others. So I just wanted to point that out. The second piece, when Amy points out that there's going to be certain organizations turned down, because the committee stuck with the original budget of $175,000. They did not touch any of the 387. I would fully expect that we would make a motion to fund those other organizations that are eligible and otherwise from that 387. I guess that was mentally when going back to budget time, that's what I personally had envisioned for that money. So we look at that, so that would entail anybody that applied that's eligible would get the money this year. Maybe next year when we can figure it out a little bit more, we can set the budget to what we have for the events. The third thing I was going to suggest just a rewording a little bit again of this to say that let's put the 2,500 back to the committee to ensure that it gets included in with the other numbers or the other applications, rather than one-off this and say you've got it, and if we are going to turn anybody else down, let's put them in this process for the recommendation for the 27th that's going to come back. Say that they're now, we're just basically saying in the motion, we recognize that it was late or it didn't happen, we're going to put it in as far as consideration goes, rather than granting these, because there's been this would be granting money ahead of anybody else, as a few people have already pointed out. So we just put that in part of the process. I toss that out to you, Councillor Oche, whether that would be okay with you, or?
Yeah, that would be fine. When you're finished, though, if I could.
Yes, so no, I just, Councillor Harrigan, would you be okay with?
Yep, and I will just look to Meredith to reword the motion to reflect that.
Okay, well, that's being reworded. Councillor Oche, if you want to do your final comments.
Thank you. Actually, you just brought up a lot of it. I was thinking, why do we have the 387,000 we're sitting on it? But with you putting out 2,500 and opening it up to the people, because that's what I thought the money was in there for in the first place. But the gentleman let me know right away that he would bring his computer in. He has one. He did it from his work, but it does have on there where the day that he went into Chatham-Kent's portal to do it. I'm afraid it doesn't show, obviously, what he was doing, but it does show that he went to the Chatham-Kent site, and that was the day that he did it. I don't know if maybe it's because it's the first year of having to apply with computer, which I don't like either. And he put it in and he left it and just assumed that it had went through. Obviously, he called you, Amy, right, to say, hey, when are we going to find out if we got it? And you let him know, well, it's not there. So why he would call Amy and ask that if he didn't try to do it would be beyond me. But and that's then shortly after that, I believe he called me. I'm not sure what day he talked to you, but you know what day he talked to me because I talked to you that day. Yeah, what Brock had said, Councilor McGregor said, is definitely going to be hard to. All of a sudden, you get 10,000 people applying, saying, "Hey, I put mine in too, but it didn't go through." But we definitely did have a problem. There's no doubt we had, as Melissa had a problem, and as Councillor Harrigan and Councillor Marjorie Crew had a problem as well with someone from their area as well. So there's definitely, I don't know if it's an IT problem or user problem or what it is, but either way, I'm thankful that you brought that up and put that into the motion to put the 2,500 into the Legion. What I'm finding though is we're not finding this out till June 21st, and I know that money is for the long weekend, actually the 29th, and I'm not sure that they're the only one that's having this, because I know the Tilbury BIA put in a request for money towards their fireworks, and so we're really getting down to the last minute with these. I'm not sure if we should look at maybe a recommendation of getting the answers out to them earlier so that they can get the money earlier so they can pay for these things that they're looking to, the events they're looking to pay with this money. So that would be my recommendation if you will take one. That's my recommendation. But thank you.
Amy?
Thank you, Your Worship, through you to Councillor Oche. In regards to the lateness of people receiving the report, Council will recall earlier this year, you suggested that we add citizens to the review committee. When you do that, lots of citizens are incredibly busy. It took time to find those volunteers, obtain time that they could meet for them to go through the process. This is their first year. I was incredibly pleased with that process. But when you involve citizens, it takes a significant more amount of time.
Thank you, Amy. Actually, I never even thought of that, so thanks for reminding me on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Worship. What Councillor Oche just said, if you'd like the funding to go forward, I'm going to recommend you just vote on it. The chances of getting a committee together to go through all of the applications and try and do the type of thorough review you'd like, we're going to have a really hard time getting it out by the deadline that you've just described, Councillor Oche. So if you want to go forward, that's great. We could chalk it up to a learning piece, but otherwise, I voted down. I mean, the chances of us getting back to you within 2.5 weeks to try and get that group together is not very likely. And so then you're going to have two different processes going on. So please make a decision and give us some direction as to whether you want them to be funded or not.
Councillor Oche?
I would still like this to go through. I'm not necessarily saying that it has to be for that day. They may have some backup money. I can talk to the president of the Legion and ask if they could float it till they get this money in. But definitely as soon as we could would be great. Thank you.
So are you okay with keeping this motion as we discussed, that potentially that this will delay the outcome of the report? However, I would like to think that we could send an email or something to the group and they would understand, given the timelines, given this is a transitionary period, and next year we hope to have virtually have the kinks ironed out of this process.
I don't want to hold up everyone else's. Just the new ones that we spoke about tonight. The ones that haven't got, the ones that there wasn't enough funds for, and this one. I'd get the other ones out as soon as I could if I was.
All right, if that's the case, then the committee can review that $2,500, but not change any of the recommendations. All right.
Correct. Thank you.
All right, let's put this to vote.
Motion passes 11-4.
Item 19, community development.
Item 19A, continuous improvement and red tape reduction.
Council, this is just quick. This is a lengthy report, which I think is great news. The Community Development Department has spent the last year working hard to continuously improve our processes. I think that development is being handled now in a much more efficient, more business-friendly manner. I would particularly bring your attention to page 7 of that report, which talks about all of the steps that have been taken by the various divisions in community development to improve our processes and be more friendly to businesses. I would also bring your attention to page 6, which talks in there about, now that we have somewhat formally completed this internal figuring out how we're going to work together in community development and improved our processes, now we're lifting our eyes to the community and we're trying to figure out what we can do to kind of move forward and encourage growth. And what we have found is that there is a need for this council and us as a municipality to invest in infrastructure to allow growth to happen. We need to invest. So we're now working on that process. We're going to be coming back to you with requests and suggestions about how we can sort of release growth to happen in our community. I have here tonight Stuart McFadden and Bruce McAllister, who, as you know, are two senior directors in our organization who've been involved in this process and can speak to any specific questions you have about this report. Thank you.
Any questions? Councillor Crew?
I'd like to move the recommendation.
Councillor Kirkwood-White?
Thank you, and I'll second the recommendation, and then I have a comment.
Okay. Any questions? Councillor Kirkwood-White?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just really want to commend your team, John, for this report. And there was a situation that happened today. There were some councillors and staff involved in talking to a constituent locally about issues in the neighborhood around bylaws that don't give enough teeth to the staff to be able to actually enforce some of the situations with regard to property standards. And I'm wondering whether those bylaws will be addressed as part of this whole process as well, to be able to give the staff some teeth in order to be able to
Thank you, Your Worships, through Councillor Kirkwood-White. So the intent is to look at all bylaws that would impact property and development to see if there's certainly improvements through amendments, or even there could be bylaws could even be rescinded. So we'll be back to you. We're currently doing that review. Appreciate there's a number of different bylaws and different processes we have to go through depending on how those bylaws have been approved. So, okay.
Councillor Harrigan?
Thank you. Just one quick comment. I want to start by saying that I am really pleased with this report. I'm very supportive of the concept of growth and continuous reduction of red tape. The one area of concern that I just have to call out, also on page 6, is the note about infrastructure for growth, not repair, replace. I think it's absolutely crucial that as we're thinking about some of these new developments growing for not only housing but also economic development, that growth is also making sure that our current residents are living in safe streets that aren't flooding, that have safe sidewalks, that they're able to live in CK, because a lot of those new builds, people who are currently residents of CK are going to move out of their home into those new builds, and then we're going to try to sell those homes. So it's that balance, right? We don't want to be building for growth, spending all of our infrastructure dollars in new growth and development, and then everybody in West Kent's moving over to Lakeshore and everybody at Wallaceburg Way is moving up to Sarnia. So I think we've got to just be cognizant of that as we go through these exercises, because certainly when we look at encouraging growth, number one is costly. It's costly to maintain and it's costly to build new. So that was just the one comment I wanted to make.
Councillor Latimer?
Thank you, through the Mayor. Have you run this, what kind of response have you gotten from your external service providers with regard to the improvements that you've already undertaken and are planning to?
So thank you, Your Worship. There's been a number of consultations that were undertaken, not necessarily even by us, through other people that certainly we talk to people all the time, but we did targeted interviews and consultations at a public meeting. So a number of these things, frankly, we're already making these changes, frankly. Honestly, we've been working on this for the past 4 years, and some of these changes and steps that we've been taking to move forward. The other one you'll see next council meeting is the Development Standards Manual, which I believe will be a big process improvement for people, just to have a guide and a roadmap as to how to develop in CK. So that one has been out for review and consultation as well. So yes, we've had a number of touch points with various external stakeholders. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Stu would like to comment as well.
Seeing no other,
just maybe on that one, we've heard a lot of feedback from our chambers of commerce, our BIAs and other local citizens groups that we're getting more active with nowadays. We've got the actual resources to be able to give them the support and that they need, and I think we've had a lot of response back from those organizations saying thank you, and I think it's going to only make our department and our community better because of that. So,
seeing no other questions, we'll put it to vote.
Motion passes 15-0.
Item 19B, application for site plan control, PL 2019000039, Sharon Warehousing, Inc., 170 Bothwell Street, Community Chatham.
Councillor Kirkwood-White?
I'll move the recommendation.
Councillor Finn?
Happy to second.
Any questions? Seeing none, we'll put it to vote.
Motion passes 15-0.
Item 19C, application for site plan control. Oh, beg your pardon. Item 19C, Ontario Heritage Act, intention to designate 9388 Cedar Hedge Line, community of Chatham Township.
Councillor McGrail.
I will so move the motion.
Councillor Kirkwood-White.
Happy to second.
Any questions? Seeing none, we'll put it to vote.
Motion passes 15-0.
Item 19D, Ontario Heritage Act, request to demolish listed property, 68 London Road, community of Thamesville.
Councillor Pinsino.
Thank you, Worship. I'll move the recommendations.
Councillor Wright.
I'll second that.
Any questions? Councillor Scotchy.
Just to the councillors in that area, I just wanted to see the feedback from the community in regards to tearing this property down. I think it's beneficial for us on the outside to kind of hear what the residents in that area are saying to you folks.
Councillor Pinsino.
Thank you, Worship. There are a couple people who do want to see the heritage building stay there, but it is in such a dilapidated state that it truly is a safety hazard. Bricks are falling off the front. The sidewalk has been closed for the past year, and the municipality has worked with this property owner to try to get him to do something, give him a building permit to fix it. Just nothing's being done. And the residents, especially the merchants on the main street and the residents that walk down the main street, they're quite upset that they look at the municipality as not doing anything about this. We're not enforcing him to fix it. We're just at a point where this is the last option left. And like I said, there's a couple residents who don't want to see it come down, but most of them are ready to move on.
Thank you, Councillor Pinsino.
Councillor OJ.
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess I'm not sure who will take this, but we recommended that it was put under the, under the Heritage Act at one time, and now we're recommending that it isn't. Is that because they will not do anything with it? Is that why we're doing that? Anyone?
Could you repeat the question, please? Sorry.
Oh, okay. Someone from Chatham, sorry.
Thank you, Mayor Cameron. Can you repeat that again? Just so I
Well,
understand?
at one time, we recommended that it be put on under the Heritage Act, and now we're recommending that it not be under the Heritage Act. So, why is that?
So the property is actually on the register under the Heritage Act, yes.
Correct.
It was listed in 2010, I believe, with an assortment of other properties as well. So just to speak, and my understanding of the property is what was heard by Councillor earlier. And the protection as a listed property, the only protection is that if there is the property owner approaches the municipality with the request to demolish the property, they need to bring that to council and have a decision from council within 60 days. It gives council the opportunity to protect the property by designating the property if they so wish.
Great. Through Your Worship. So did this gentleman, I'm sure you weren't here because you're young, but did this gentleman ask it to be under the Heritage Protection Act, or do you know?
To be listed back in 2010?
On the registry?
It's not a requirement for the property owner to request that. It was a recommendation by the Heritage Committee at that time that was brought forward to council, and council adopted the properties into the register.
Okay, and he's now asking, he does want to tear it down. That's not Chatham-Kent going in there and tearing it down. It's him, I'm assuming?
My understanding that it's being initiated by administration and the Building Services Department. There's been there's been, the building department has served the property owner with notice to repair the building. It's in a state that's a hazard to pedestrians walking on the sidewalk right now. It hasn't been repaired in over a year. The proper next step for the safety of the citizens is to take this step, but it is initiated by administration.
Okay, that's why we're okay with taking it out from off the registry, okay. But we do not own this property, correct? I just want to make sure.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Latimer?
Thank you. Through the mayor, just as for my own clarification, because I don't know the protocol. So we demolish it, or we arrange to have it demolished at his cost, correct?
Yes, that's my understanding.
And then he's free to do what he wants with it after that?
Within the zoning of the property,
Yes.
he would be able to.
So I'm thinking outside the box here. If I were the owner and didn't want, because it's a heritage property and I couldn't afford to rehabilitate it, according to the Heritage Act, why wouldn't I be silent and let you take it down for me, charge me the lesser price, and then I go ahead and build up?
I just want to be clear that the property is not designated, it's only listed property, so there's a difference. A designated property certain features of that property would need to be protected under the bylaw that's registered on title. This is only a listed property, so it does have some heritage attributes that may be worth protecting, but would need to be investigated a little further, and then a bylaw would need to be adopted by council at that time to register or to designate the property. So right now it's a listed property. The only means to protect this property is the 60-day notice to council if there's a request to demolish a property. Is that?
Yeah,
Mr. Mayor,
No,
maybe I can help. The demolition is being proposed here by the building department, who've had complaints and requests from the community. So precisely to the councilor's question about why would the owner allow this, or does this benefit them somehow? I think the answer is that we have to, we'll tender it or go, we'll hire someone to do it, but they have to pay for all of that back on their taxes. So usually that's not a cheaper method for them. If they were just looking to demolish a property, probably they could get it done cheaper. It's going to end up costing them more in the long run. Okay.
Seeing no other questions, we'll put it to vote.
Motion passes 15-0.
You gonna do the infrastructure?
Item 20, infrastructure and engineering services.
Item 28, encroachment roadway abutting 88 Grand Avenue East, Chatham.
Councillor McGregor.
I'll move the recommendation.
Councillor Crew.
I'll second it.
Any questions? Seeing none, we'll put it to vote.
Motion passes 15-0.
Item 20B, motion by Councillor Thompson regarding special events process.
Councillor Thompson.
All right, thank you. I, Councillor Thompson, move that whereas the current special permits policy has the potential to unfairly harm small private events held on municipal property, and whereby the municipal special events manual deems any event serving alcohol be classified as a municipally significant event in order to receive the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario's special occasion permit, and whereas the province has announced a loosening of regulations surrounding the public consumption of alcohol, whereas the municipality should be in a state of constant improvement and looking to cut red tape wherever possible. Therefore, be it moved that the administration review the process in which special events permits move and are approved through the municipal system with an eye to improve response time and customer service, and that administration raise concerns as it relates to the issuing of special events permits with the provincial government as part of a review of special events permits.
Councillor Pinsino.
I'll second that, Your Worship.
Councillor Thompson?
I don't really have too many comments since we discussed it at the last meeting. I just wanted to say that the individual that had the event at Iriel was very thankful. And I look forward to moving this forward. I think it's an important step to help out those folks that are running smaller events or that are potentially doing this for the first time, move through a system that can be difficult to navigate at times.
Any questions? Seeing none, we'll put it to vote.
Motion passes 15-0.
Item 21, Finance, Budget, and Information Technology Services.
Item 21A, motion by Councillor Sakachi regarding reconsideration of vesting 75 Dell Street, Wallaceburg. And your worship, I believe we need a vote to reconsider before we put this on the table.
So, Councillor Sakachi? Do we need to put it on the floor first? No?
So we need to do the vote to reconsider first before Councillor Sakachi can put his motion on the floor. It does need to be passed by a 2/3 vote. So there are 15 councillors present tonight, so we need 10 of you to vote in favor in order for Councillor Sakachi to put his motion on the floor.
Yes, so Councillor Scott, you gonna move this? Councillor Oche?
I'll second it.
Any questions? Seeing none, we'll put it to vote.
Motion passes 15-0.
All right, Councillor Scotchy.
Whereas council approved the property known as 75 Dell Street, Wallaceburg to be surplus to the municipal needs and placed on the Chatham-Kent Web Surplus Registry and offered for sale in accordance with the municipal policy described in Bylaw 39-2019. And whereas the same property was offered to Habitat Humanity for consideration of the potential future build site, but they have indicated the ideal build sites are within an urban boundary. And whereas council approved to vest the same property into the name of the corporation of the municipality of Chatham-Kent. Therefore, be it resolved that after further consideration, I move that council not vest the property at 75 Dell Street, Wallaceburg, and write the taxes down to the cancellation price of $2,500 and put the property up for sale at the tax sale as soon as possible. It is recognized that a 2/3 vote to be considered this motion be obtained, although it already was, before the motion can be voted on.
Can I get a seconder? Councillor Pincinel. Questions? Actually, Councillor Scotchy, pass it to you first.
I just think this is one of the occurrences that we have an opportunity to maybe rectify something that maybe was a little bit confusing to some, including myself. I think that it would be beneficial to council to not vest this property. I think given the going through the report again, speaking with different members of administration, I think it would be beneficial for us to attempt to write this down once again. I do realize that there might be some costs in regards to some grass cutting, but I also realize that there might be a potential for us to get into future monumentary issues if we do vest this property.
Seeing no questions, we'll put it to vote.
Motion passes 15-0.
Item 21B, motion by Councillor Oche regarding Talbot Trail waterfront properties.
Councillor Oche.
Thank you, Your Worship. Whereas we own 4388 Talbot Trail, just west of Port Alma, and whereas we own an old waterworks facility on Talbot Trail just east of Dealtown, and whereas the PUC is paying taxes on this property, therefore it be resolved that Chatham-Kent put these two properties up for sale on an as-is basis with no chance to build due to LTVCA bylaws.
Councillor Harrigan.
I'll second the motion.
Councillor Oche.
Thank you, Your Worship. As you've heard, many of you have heard about this already. I just find it odd that we're not looking to sell these and actually get some taxes to help with our budget process. But I know there was something you mentioned about the road needing the property, and I'm not sure who I was supposed to ask about that, but it was mentioned, so would that be you, Thomas? Was that what was said? Something about the needs of the front of the property.
Thank you, Mayor. Could you please repeat the question?
When we spoke of this earlier, it was mentioned, maybe I should be asking John, because John was the one that mentioned it, about the property, the front of the property, maybe needing something for the roads. I'm not sure exactly what, and that's why I'm asking.
Mr. Mayor, I think it is appropriate to ask the GM of IES about these properties from the perspective of engineering and public works. I also think it's be very helpful to hear from Bruce McAllister on the planning implications.
Thank you, Mayor. So from the IES perspective, as council is aware, we are engaged very heavily in a Lake Erie erosion study right now. I'd really encourage council to look for the results of that study before voting on this. Our timing for that study, it'll be completed in March of 2020, so it's not too far around the corner. I think that information will be very valuable as it relates to IES based on the rate of erosion that we're seeing. Certainly, we would like to do everything we can to protect the road structure in particular. And if it's in the hands of another party, that will be impossible. And that's some of the issues that we're running into now. We have so much private ownership adjacent to the lake and near the roads that we completely lose all ability to, for example, Rose Beach Line, we lose that ability to bolster the road and to maintain it long term. So I would just, this idea is potentially valid, but if you had the results of the study from the Erie Shore Erosion Project, I think it would be very helpful to you.
So your worship, so what you're saying is basically defer this till, say, April?
This would be my recommendation, yes.
Okay. I am fine with that, if my seconder is fine with that.
Any questions on the updated to defer?
Sorry, Bruce.
Defer to what time frame? April 2020? Councilor Oshie, would you just like to withdraw then? Withdraw this motion and then bring it back in April?
No, I just defer till April of 2020.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, can we put it to vote? Item 22, closed session reports.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. Closed session report for Monday, June 10th, 2019. Members absent were Councilors Bondi, Foss, C. McGregor, and Solomon. Council directed administration on proposed disposition of land by the municipality with regard to offer to purchase JM Controls and Electric Limited, Section 239-2C of the Municipal Act. Advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose with regard to grass-cutting contracts, Section 239-2F of the Municipal Act. Council received information on proposed disposition of land by the municipality and advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose with regard to 75 Dell Street, Wellsburg, Section 239-2C and F of the Municipal Act, and proposed disposition of land by the municipality and advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose with regard to Talbot Trail waterfront properties, Section 239-2C and F of the Municipal Act.
Can I get a seconder? Councilor Latimer, any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item 23, approval of communication items. Councilor Oche.
I'll move the recommendation to receive.
Councilor Solomon. Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Non-agenda business. Councillor Pinsino.
Thank you, Worship. On June 21st and 2nd, Thamesville's holding the Threshing Festival. I know that coincides with the event in Chatham, the Retrofest. But this is a little bit different agenda. It's very kid-friendly. We have a big parade on Friday night, and Saturday night we have a great big fireworks show. So if you take time away from the Retrofest, come out and spend some time in Thamesville. Thanks.
Councillor Latimer.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to draw your attention, councillors, to the little save the date cards on your desks. This is to remind you. Oh, for heaven's sakes. Thanks so much. Whereas just wanted to remind you to save a date and join the World Day Against Trafficking for 1 hour at our nearest en route location, which is the westbound en route at Tilbury. 60% of all human trafficking in Canada is initiated along the 400 series highways. So please join us on Tuesday, July the 30th at the westbound Tilbury en route stop to help raise awareness about trafficking on this World Day Against Trafficking.
Councillor McGrail.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. So I'd like to invite everybody, it's going to be a busy weekend next weekend, but next Friday night, Pancor will be hosting its annual tractor pull. So come on out and see some horsepower at play.
Okay, reading of the bylaws. Oh. Councillor Oche.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to bring up, last council, we had talked about a meeting attendance that was supposed to be going on the website for attendance of councillors going to meetings or not going to meetings in some cases. Is there someone that can let me know what's happening with that? Is it going to happen or? No, the meetings for here, but not the meetings for all the committees that we're on. So that was, are you answering, Meredith? Sorry.
So we do have the page on the website that has the council meetings that you attend. I am in the process of updating the spreadsheet for your new committees for this term and making it accessible to go up on the website. So sometimes it takes a little bit of time for committees to send me their attendance, so I try and wait to keep it as up to date as possible.
All right, thank you very much.
Councillor Scotchy.
First of all, I can't go without saying to staff in regards to Public Works and the trade show that happened this week. I had the opportunity to go there. I know a lot of times we receive a lot of negative comments in regards to the Bradley Center. I wanted to make sure that I heard so many good comments in the around the community in regards to how well the show was put on, how well it was presented, and how well it was attended, and especially into some of the emails and talking to some of close friends and relatives in the the hospitality business. It was an excellent venue for Chatham-Kent, so I think that everybody here needs a big congratulations on how well that event went on. And I just wanted to direct a quick couple questions to Thomas. We've had some questions here, and I know that Mr. Brown's in the audience as well. A couple of questions in regards to some action that happened on Ellen Street this week in Blenheim with some work that was done. I had a couple calls, and I was able to attend the scene and take some pictures, and I sent them to Mr. Brown as well as to Thomas, and the response I got back, I guess, was a little, I guess, alarming to me, because I was told that the work was basically good. I've never seen a rural street look the way, urban street look the way as I seen on Friday, and I went to the actual site again today, and I wanted to see if I could just touch base with you about Mr. Brown, if you can kind of, because now I've had about 5 concerns from that street, so I think it's beneficial that the public knows that when we have that many issues that we're at least addressing, because I just think that there is an issue with the workmanship on that road. So.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The particular street in question is a little challenging for public works crews. it's an urban street and kind of an urban cross-section, but no real curbs and a gravel shoulder on a road where the edges aren't holding together probably as good as they once were. And so I think it was a little challenging for the graders to come in there. This is something that they have done over the last couple of years. I myself didn't make it out there today, but some of my staff did, and I think it needs a little time to settle down when they freshly grade that gravel. Unfortunately, you know, we had that rain today as well, which I don't think helped, but we're gonna have a look at it. I don't know if there's any way to fix that without proper urban cross-section with curbs and everything, but we definitely don't wanna make a mess like that, and if there is a concern still outstanding, we'll investigate.
Is it possible to attend that site with an engineer, just to go over the concerns that I've had from multiple people and show them kind of, because basically they've graded people's front yards and driveways, and it's just it's an absolute disaster, right? So I think it's beneficial that at least they know that we've heard them, they see us on the street, that we're looking at it, not just from a public works standpoint, but from an engineering standpoint, to see if we can talk about potential fixes in the 2020 life cycle budget. Is that something that we could you could accommodate, having an engineer in the next little bit kind of come on site and take a look?
Absolutely. I'll work with the engineering department and we can find someone to go out and investigate. I don't believe there's any plans currently for capital improvement. Thomas maybe could mention that.
Yeah, so certainly upgrading the road would be, I think, is what the residents would prefer. It is not on our capital list. The option to the residents right now would be to work through the road upgrade policy the council approved last year is another option. So it's just, we have this case. I actually had another inquiry over the weekend in Dresden, exactly the same concern with the gravel road and the shoulder, that it wasn't done as well as they thought would be the standard for urban settings. So it's just a problem having shoulders in urban settings, and the expectations for service are extremely high. So.
And respectfully, I just think that it's not, the big issue is not just with the shoulder. I think that the road is not up to an urban standard. So, and I'm not going to agree with anybody that tells me otherwise, although I respect you guys are well more versed in that. It's just that from a standpoint looking at that road, I just know if it was in front of my house, I would be more than irate. And I think that they're not looking for it to be, you know, brand new. They're looking at it to be a usable, safe road for their kids to play on and for kids to ride their bikes on, which it is not at this point.
So thank you. That's a tar and chip road. So you'll see a report in a couple of weeks, and we will have our tar and chip report. And we did the same thing that we do for all roads. We go out and we evaluate, and we have a certain budget, and the same condition exists, unfortunately, that there are a lot of roads, tar and chip, that should be upgraded, but we just don't have the funding to do that. That particular road and the road in Dresden as well, it just didn't make the list because even though it's not the standard that people like, it's actually, they're in better shape than a lot of other roads in Chatham-Kent. So it really goes back to our asset management plan. That's the issue.
Well, I appreciate your comments.
Seeing no other, reading of the bylaws. First and second reading. Councillor Solomon, seconded by Councillor Hall. All in favor? Opposed? Third and final reading. Councillor Crew, second by Councillor Finn. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Resolution, council in closed session and adjournment.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. The Chatham-Kent Council adjourned to its next meeting to be held on Monday, June 24th, 2019, and that Chatham-Kent Council authorized itself to meet in closed session on that day to discuss any matters permitted by the Municipal Act.
Seconded by Councillor Finn. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. It's a wrap.